We did a little review. Maybe we can do a little review because this is Gita value number 6, the last. Let me say what the review was and see if you want to do it. So far, we've covered 5 Gita values. First question, we'll list them. Second question, give a succinct description of each one of the 5. And then we can move on to number 6. Now, fortunately, Rishta has a very good memory, and she was able to cover it all. So without calling on her, is that something that you'd all like to do? And if you say yes, then that means you have to participate, not just observe. Yes? You're saying we should go through that exercise, the review exercise. Yes? Sure. I may call on you. I hear some giggles. Okay. In sequence, as we discussed them, Gita value number 1 was? Let's just how about raise your hand, because if everybody speaks at once, I won't follow what anyone is saying. First one? Samadarshana. Next one? Ahimsa. Third one? Amanitva. Anyone else? You were attending the other ones? Number 4.
I don't think I can.
4. Yes. Acharya. Number 5.
Icha, choices. Icha.
Say it again.
Icha, choices. Icha.
Icha. Says you have an itcha. Itcha means choices. And then finally this one is priti. Okay, so we'll just go through the same ones. Samadarshana, a very succinct explanation of what it means. Samadarshana means, as a Gita value, it means?
Equal reason, and Gita values means look at that people on the soul platform rather than body platform.
Okay, a little bit more, please. We recognize the bodies or the coverings, and we respect that there are differences and relate according to the differences, while at the same time not forgetting.
While at the same time is not forgetting that everyone connected with the super soul and they are part and parcel.
Okay. Samadarshana. That's succinct.
Is non-violence, Maharaj?
Let's do the negative, and then we're going to do the positive. The negative is
Not to create distress on others.
okay. And then there's 3 kinds of distress. We can
Emotional, mental,
and then the
and
body.
Body, yeah.
Okay. So don't put others in distress or into suffering in those 3 categories. That's the common one. The positive one?
Acceptance, Maharaj.
Okay, but so elaborate. Accepting what? Somebody want to help him? The positive. Go ahead.
Help in advancing in spiritual.
Suffering is due to ignorance. Removing ignorance is nonviolence. Presenting the message of Bhagavad Gita is nonviolence because it removes ignorance, which is the source of suffering. And if one does not, if one has that knowledge and one does not administer that knowledge, that's violence. Nonviolence is awakening the spiritual culture and the understanding of others of Samadarshana, while respecting differences.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, so you ready for the next one? Wow, he's very confident. Look at that. The third one is
Amanitva means humility.
humility and
So when we receive praise, we tend to become prideful. But when we direct that praise and say it is because of Guru and Krishna, it turns into humility.
That's good. There's an added part that is the fact that the reality is I'm not qualified, but somehow, by mercy that came my way, there's some opportunity to render some service and some ability to do service to some degree. And there's many people that do the same service much better than me. And I'm looking up to those people and trying to become a better servant. Yeah? Okay, that's succinct. Amanitva. That's number 3. Number 4. Who volunteered number 4? Yes? Can you pass the microphone to him, please?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Acharya.
Acharya,
You're on.
Acharya means this, teaching by values.
Teaching
So,
by
Values.
example.
Yeah,
Teaching by example. Achar means behavior.
Okay.
So teaching, prachar, by achar. Now, elaborate a little bit.
Implementing in our own life with the example so that other people can follow it.
Good. Know the scripture, live by the scripture. That's and teach others both ways, actually, by what you speak and what you do. Okay? And number 5.
Icha means choices. So every living entity has a free will choice to make, but it's minute free will, so we're dependent on the Supreme Lord who is independent.
Okay, that's very succinct. Okay. Anybody want to add anything to this little mini summary? Some burning additional nectar that you'd like to add? Okay. So Gita value number 6, Priti, or love. So now we're going to do a few things. We're going to say some obvious things of what love isn't, and say, is it an agreement, a love contract? That's not really what love is. It's not just contractual. I'll do this, you do that, and then we have a deal. And that's what love is. That's not what love is. It's not just an agreement. Trash that one. Is it an arrangement? Someone says, you're together, you have a loving relationship, please. Now, in Vedic culture, Prabhupada would often say, it's part of Vedic culture that marriages were arranged. But love isn't just you make an arrangement and now there's love. So, something more than that. Maybe it's just two persons are attracted to one another and they're just loving one another because they're attracted to one another. Not simply that, because we know what happens when there's attraction that's not on the spiritual platform, because remember, all of this needs to be, all of these six are resting upon the bottom of the iceberg idea, that is, there's something that's unchanging. So within the field of the material energy, there's maybe attraction for some time, guaranteed. Time passes, the attraction fades, and it becomes something else, or becomes the opposite. Is it a bond simply due to being in the same family? Well, that's nice, but families change, at least from lifetime to lifetime, so that's not what love is either. Or due to being in the same culture, community, nation, or species? Or is it too difficult to identify and it's a complex emotion? So those are ruling out some things that are not so uncommon of what people think what love is, or priti. Priti is a word that I've come to understand. Jiva Goswami liked a lot. In ISKCON, we're accustomed to hear the word prema. Prema Pumarto Mahan. The goal is prema. Love. Prema. Jiva Goswami liked the word priti. Priti is, one could say, it's an element of love. It's affection towards an object or a person. He uses it very much like interchangeable between prema and priti. So here's what this group of nice devotees wanted to share about priti. It's a verb, and therefore it means it's an action. It's something that's practical or practice-oriented, something that you do. And it's joyfully done. It's an action of loving exchange or exchange of service that's joyfully done. Here's a little definition given in the purport from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, text number 9. You recognize where this is, that section of items of knowledge? Anyone not with me? In the beginning of that's chapter 13. Chapter 12 is devotional service. In this material existence, I may be engaged in some service to some master, but I don't really lovingly serve my master. I simply serve to get some money. And the master is also not in love. He takes service from me and pays me. That's the contractual. So there's no question of love. But for spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. So perform with the present senses, that's easy, or it's we'll do it this way. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. And sometimes the division of those 18 chapters is compared to 6 and 6 makes 18. And the first 6 are dealing with karma. The last 6 are dealing with jnana, and the middle 6 are dealing with bhakti. I mean, obviously it's not the only thing that's talked about in the first 6 and last 6, but that's an emphasis. With karma, it's the concern, how do you work or perform activities while connecting with the Supreme. So it's a big part of the first 6 chapters is detached work. With work, commonly people work because they want something. You do something to get something. Because otherwise, why do people do something? Because they want something. So when you do something to get something, that's fruitive. And it's very strong emphasis in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is working without attachment to the result. So if you're not attached to the result, why would you work? And what do you do with the result? So the result is offered to the Supreme. That's karma yoga. You offer the results of your work to the Supreme. In different ways that's described. And then the systems of yoga are identified, moving for detachment from the results of work. Some knowledge is required. So knowledge and detachment, jnana, vairagya, they go well together while doing your work in this world, your activities of this world, your duties of this world. And in fact, that's Arjuna's question, what's my duty? So at the end of the first 6 chapters, the conclusion, the summary conclusion is, Arjuna, you want to know what your duty is? By all means, be a yogi. Link with the Supreme. And of all systems of yoga, one is the best system of yoga. Because that chapter 6 speaks about meditation, which is part of an eightfold yoga system. But of all the yoga systems, one is the best. It's bhakti. And bhakti includes this senses engage in objects with the senses, which is the last statement here. So the middle 6 chapters, just the reason for making this emphasis is, the middle 6 chapters end with chapter 12. And chapter 12 is entitled Devotional Service, which is what the middle 6 chapters are emphasizing. For devotional service, there must be engaging the senses with objects of the senses, but with other subset things, with detachment of the results, offering the results to the Supreme, the karma yoga element, and then the purpose for whom one is working is not just so I can get released from the bondage of work, but it's for the satisfaction of the Supreme. So that's the last. For spiritual life, one must be elevated to the pure stage of love. That stage of love can be achieved by practice of devotional service performed with the present senses. So, pure stage of love through the practice of devotional service, pure stage of love through the practice of devotional service, then love is the fruit, the mature fruit. So some knowledge, some detachment, some offerings unto the Supreme, and then the mature stage through devotional service, the topmost yoga, is where there's affection of love. And that's what chapter 12 is describing. So there's the no love situation, there's the love situation that arises from devotional service that's properly performed through practice. Just a little attempt out of many different ways one can approach the subject of what love is. So, what do you think genuine love is? Uh-oh, you're going to be on the spot now. And when did it arise in one's heart? So Gita Values teaches us it's already there, isn't it? This is Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam teaches us, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches us, there's something in a seed state that's dormant. Some seeds are dormant, that can be fructified, but it's already there. It's not even immature, it's just in a seed stage. And because the tendency is one of those misplaced ones at the beginning of this presentation, it stays dormant. And when proper association and proper practice in that association comes about, then that which is dormant can come out. And as it comes out, the good news is you can feel it. And one of the symptoms of that feeling of love, there's the tip of the iceberg, this example, there's behaviors and speech that represent or are akin to what the nature of love is. But it's also in a deeper place, it's a sense of satisfaction. Negatively, supposing that love doesn't awaken, supposing it just stays on the platform of duty. Bhaktivinoda Thakur teaches, and it's true, we all have the experience, that duty is not the same as love. You do something because it ought to be done, not necessarily because you love it, or you love a person. You do because it's duty. Now, there may be some feelings, of course, for the person with whom you're interacting, but love is it's in relation to Krishna. That's what love is. It's in relation to Krishna. It's prema in relation to Krishna, or priti, affection in relation to Krishna. And it brings satisfaction from within. That is to say, the detachment is byproduct, not of knowledge, but of attachment to the person who you're trying to please. Even if it's uncomfortable, you're not feeling uncomfortable because of the feeling of love, that the feeling of satisfaction. That's what love is. Let's see what happens with the storm that's coming in over this weekend. But I've been meditating a lot on a particular personality, or a part of an exchange of Sanatana Goswami with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he visits Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the second time. The first time they met in Allahabad for some months, and then Mahaprabhu sent him, go stay in Vrindavan, and after some time you can come join me in Puri, because that's where they were going in opposite directions. So he went to Vrindavan, stayed for a year, and then he started his overland journey to Puri. In the course of traveling overland, he contracted a disease by taking water from the wrong place. His body developed sores all over his body. Not just it wasn't just uncomfortable, it was really yucky. Prabhupada uses the word weeping. Pus was coming out of the sores, pus and blood, and it was smelly. And it was yucky. And he was there was a purpose. It's a very wonderful pastime. The purpose. One of the ways of considering what the purpose was Lord Chaitanya was drawing Sanatana Goswami to a place where he couldn't go left and he couldn't go right. He couldn't leave and he couldn't stay. And he was suffering because of it. Because he just wanted to please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he was unable to be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because Mahaprabhu would embrace him and he'd smear this yucky, smelly stuff on his body. Anyway, it's a very wonderful pastime. But he was driven by one thing. He had, there's a, I'm telling the story in advance, but I really like it. At the very beginning of that chapter, it's Antya-lila chapter 4, as Krishnadas Kaviraj does, the first verse of each chapter, in a very succinct manner, describes what the chapter is about. And there are two main things in that first verse. One is he forbid Sanatana Goswami from committing suicide because he was thinking, what's the use of this life? I'll attend Rath Yatra, throw my body under the wheel of the chariot in the presence of Lord Chaitanya, the presence of Lord Jagannath, and I'll be relieved of this burden, this sinful body that's causing me so much distress because it's going to be offensive to Lord Chaitanya and the Vaishnavas. Anyway, that was one, with Lord Chaitanya, without Sanatana Goswami having told anyone anything about this idea. Lord Chaitanya told them, you can't do this, which led Sanatana Goswami to understand that Lord Chaitanya is omniscient. I didn't say anything to anybody, he knew it. He's omniscient, and he forbid me. Then another thing, Jagadananda said, why don't you leave? Attend Rath Yatra, then go to Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya said, you can't go to Vrindavan. And he kept embracing him. Then one fine day, this is this one. One fine day, a messenger was sent from Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami to come join him for lunch. It was noon, time for lunch. And Sanatana Goswami did a big detour. It's like, I'll show you a map if we actually have our live presentations. The map shows over here is where he was staying. He was staying with Haridas at Siddhabakul. To get to where Lord Chaitanya was, it's like this. But to get to where Lord Chaitanya was, it would go past the Jagannath temple, or what's known as the Singhadwara gate. And the Brahmanas, the pujaris, lived in that area. And they're always coming and going in front of the Singhadwara gate. So he didn't go there because he didn't want his buddy to touch the bodies of the pujaris because it would contaminate them. So what did he do? He went around in a very circuitous route by the sea. And it's summer at noon. And the sand in the summer at noon is like fire. That's several times in the Bengali. He didn't feel anything. Why? He was so absorbed, completely absorbed in meeting Lord Chaitanya. He felt something, but he wasn't immersed in pain. His feet were blistering from the fire-like sand. Lord Chaitanya, being omniscient, said, Sanatan, by what path did you come? Well, I didn't go past the Singhadwara gate, I went by the sea. Then he asked him, why'd you do that? And then second is, how'd you tolerate the heat? He said, I didn't feel any pain. His feet were blistered from the fire of the sand, but he didn't feel any inconvenience because his consciousness was so absorbed in meeting Lord Chaitanya. At the same time, he knew that Lord Chaitanya would want to embrace him. And that was so painful for him. If he can't let the pujaris touch his body, what about Lord Chaitanya embracing him and smearing his body with the smelly, bloody, pussy, yucky stuff? But his heart was so satisfied because of priti, because of affection, because the object of his life was inviting him to come see him and have lunch with him. Now, we get invitations to go have lunch sometimes. It's not quite like that. One who loves from such a place does not love for gaining anything, because he or she is free from getting anything back, including the feeling that they are good people. It is purely acting as an instrument for the eternal welfare of the other person. That's love. It takes one beyond the duality. I like, I don't like, or pleasure, pain, or friend, enemy, or anything of this world that's in the world of duality. Free from all temporary identities, one sees himself or herself as the spirit soul, part and parcel of their source. It comes back to Samadarshana, or not just Samadarshana, that's seeing others equally, but it's, the conception of who you are and the conception of who you're serving. So when there's full shelter in who you are and the person, the object of your service, then the door for love becomes open. And it takes some time to mature that affection for the object, because we're covered and we're conditioned and contaminated and so forth and so on. Consistently striving to act from this place gives unwavering satisfaction. That's a big part of this message for this evening. That Sam Siddhir Hari Toshanam. One feels satisfied because of trying to satisfy Hari. That's love. The object, the person, without consideration. What was the question? Was it this morning's question? Somebody asked a question. Somebody asked a question this morning's class about this topic. Do you remember that question? Was it an online question that was being asked? Something about the difference between two things. Who remembers?
Pleasing Krishna. Either pleasing Krishna or Krishna is pleased.
Yeah. Could you say it a little bit longer? Expand it a little bit. Not too much. There's two options. One, A and B. A is
Krishna is pleased by my service, or my service is pleasing to Krishna. It's for Krishna's pleasure.
You got it? Are you repeating correctly?
Yes.
Yes. He's nodding. Let me try to say it back. One idea is Krishna is pleased by my service. And I'm feeling good about the fact that Krishna is pleased by my service. And so who's at the center? And the other option?
Service is pleasing to Krishna.
No. Huh?
For the pleasure.
For the pleasure of Krishna. So Krishna is at the center. So it's not a black and white situation, obviously. But who was at the center was the the way the discussion was going this morning. So there's the satisfaction from the Bhagavatam and from Bhagavad Gita is there's the subject. This is Rupa Goswami's language. There's the subject and there's the object. And Krishna is the object of affection. And the subject is one who's feeling the affection. And then there's the exchange of affection. Now, it's a two-way exchange of affection. But from the point of view of the devotee, there's the object and we're the subject. So the view of bhakti is the object is to be pleased. Not, I am pleasing Krishna by my service, but the object is to be pleased. And when that stage of consciousness becomes matured, that's where we're feeling satisfaction. Say it, move away from that position, which is where we generally are, and it's more about us than is Krishna being pleased. So this example of Sanatana Goswami is ideal to illustrate this. He wasn't feeling. Not only he was able to tolerate the pain of his feet burning, blistering, and he wasn't, feeling it. He was feeling something, but he wasn't feeling displeased or just, he could have said, well, it's too hot, I'm going the other way. He continued because he was absorbed in, by his example, he's the acharya or anacharya, showing he wants to observe etiquette while carrying out his mission of meeting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his object of love, and being in his association. So, I like this statement. There has to be a continual and consistent striving in that direction. Supposing it's intermittent, like most of us. The unsteady bhakti stage. Then sometimes not, sometimes not, sometimes not. And when that's the case, then pure bhakti is not going to be with us. So consistently striving to act from this place gives unwavering satisfaction. Here we are, the Samadarshana fellow again, or the image. Being self-realized, they take on the path of bhakti yoga and try to connect everyone. This is the ahimsa message. Connect everyone to their real self in this way, seeing all equally as spirit souls. One more time. Consistently trying to see everyone equally in connection with their source, striving to serve them in that consciousness awakens genuine love. We're almost done. Bhagavad Gita, the key in the lock. Such a person is Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma, dear to everyone because of their service mood towards others. Vishuddhatma, a soul with purified intelligence. Vijitatma, one who is self-controlled. Jitendriya, one who has conquered his senses. Bhagavad Gita. So there's going to be an activity that comes at the end. How to receive that priti? Or love, the heart has to be open, obviously, so that we can give it to others. Priti or love comes from bhakti or devotional practice, service to Namaprabhu, and the Gita's message. So developing, we chant, but developing some affinity for, or affection for, or attachment for our relationship with the holy name. And then to the degree that that's there, you can pass through anything. Good times and bad times. You know, the experiences of duality don't carry you. The affection for the holy name and the teaching of Bhagavad Gita carries you. Or say the same thing in a different way. It's not that when you become advanced in devotional service, the world around you becomes a different world. But your experience of that world changes. Nice? Yeah, because the heart has changed. Okay, here's the application exercise you've all been waiting for. Contemplate the entire 6 Gita values topic. Write one action plan that you'd like to try for each value for the next 1 month. And you write a little action plan, one thing for each of the 6 for the next month. Something that will help you make an action plan. One area of life, fix it to something that you do every day, some relationship that you have with someone, some part of your life. Fix it. Connect it that way. Once a week. Take once a week. Reflect about the quality. Just like not in the midst of 16 things, you just sit back and you're reflecting on those actions that you decided some time ago that you'd like to cultivate. Offer prayers. And then if you want to do this, we can do this. We can, you can begin this exercise right now. You don't have to make your list. You can make your list right now. That's okay. But, to get started, maybe take one out of the 6 and think about what you might do for one of the 6, and then you do the rest in your own leisure. Now, this is a nice idea, but supposing nice ideas don't happen, that's often the case. So it won't happen. So then you get some nice ideas that don't happen. But if you take it seriously, then it can bring some transformation. Are we ready? The exercise part? You sure? Huh?
The second point, we need to just read it.
And what's your question?
Read once a week about this quality for 10 minutes.
So the language is bad. You have your plan of what you're going to do with these 6 values. You take a look at what you're going to do for those 6 values. Take some reflection time once a week with the list in front of you, and you reflect on I'll change the language of that one while you're doing your work. Okay. And what's this young boy going to do? Who are you going to pair up with? Mom? Okay. You may be, the third wheel on the bicycle. Okay. Well, take some time. If you have paper or your little handheld device, everyone knows these days how to write faster than I can type. Here we go. When you're ready, you can start sharing, and I'll stop talking. Does anybody need more time? Does anybody need more time? Some of you are so absorbed you don't even hear me. Maybe we'll just what should we do? It says you seem to be engaging nicely, except for you two. You're just like entertaining your son here.
Trying to write.
Yeah? No kidding.
It was the first time we came. So.
Okay. He is shy too. Okay. We won't embarrass him anymore. You can continue at your leisure. My request is don't make leisure fall off the cliff, but continue. You've already started something. And, with the person that you've already started with confidentiality, continue and see if you can get something, maybe by tomorrow sometime. You have something that because it takes a while to refine this kind of the language and the objective and language that matches the objective and so forth. So by tomorrow, 6:00, see if you have something that you can live with and you're willing to share it with whoever you've been having your dialogue with, even if it's just your phone. And assuming that the storm doesn't crash in on us, we'll have a class tomorrow evening on something else. The idea that I have, because this is it for Gita values, is another nice chapter 13 Bhagavad Gita summarized tomorrow evening. So does that sound okay? With this exercise that we started, you continue. Try to get something by 6:00 tomorrow that you can stay with. Okay? What's up back there in the kitchen? You got some hand signals going on. What's going on? What do you want? Nothing. Okay. That's good to hear. Srila Prabhupada ki, Bhagavad Gita ki, Gaur Premanandi. There you go. A question? In relation to this or in relation to something else? Okay. We have a quick question. I should have asked for questions. Look at that. You got a microphone. It's bright red. It glows in the dark, probably.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Sanatana Goswami's pastime, you're describing, it's really heart-touching, very moving.
Well, you hear it Saturday morning, if we get together Saturday morning in the snowstorm.
Of course, we cannot imitate him because he is at a very, very high level of affection and absorption for Lord Chaitanya.
Imitate is not recommended, right?
Yeah. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about how do we take care of the practicalities at the same time be in that mood of
Well, you
absorption.
move in that direction. You know, each of us have our practicalities. Mine are different than yours. Yours are different than his, and you know. So with our differences, we stay with, you do your differences, you do your duties according to your situation and your nature, etc. While with humility, recognizing this is where I am, recognizing that's where I want to go. Here's a role model. Here's an acharya teaching me by his example, and I'm way over here. But let me take inspiration from the role model, and he's teaching something by example, and he's speaking something. So let me learn from that, and then move in that direction while I'm doing my duties and the practical things that I have to do. It's not like a parallel processor. The mind has to be split between practical and devotional. It's just you live your practical in the direction of the devotional, recognizing with humility I'm not there, but that's where I want to go, in that direction at least. In this lifetime and in many lifetimes, I'm not likely to get to that place that he is. He is the intimate associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But let me admire and take inspiration and move in that direction.
Just as a follow-up on my personal application, Guru Maharaj, I have this nature when I see whether they are senior devotees or the peers, if I'm seeing some kind of difficulty, let's take this example of Sanatana Goswami's blisters. I'm like, how could you do that, Mataji or Prabhu? And just my heart gets like so much and wanting to do something, but it doesn't pain him at all. So I have had similar instances with the other devotees where I'm trying to go out of my way, thinking it's a problem and I have to do something. And they're like, I'm totally fine. It doesn't bother me. What's your problem?
Well, their response to your concern is not so smooth. It's not so gentle. Maybe that's what you need. It's just like somebody giving you a stiff arm and saying, keep your distance. Have you seen this? Jamuna Jivana sent me this video. It's part of a presentation that's done for new people. The dreaded drama triangle. Have you seen that one? Send it to her. And what you just described is the hero wants to rescue the victim. And then, the dreaded drama, because drama involves these three: the hero, the villain, and the victim. And then there's just interplay. And so the advocacy of this little cute video is none of those. Don't try to be the hero, etc., etc. But try to be something else. The something else there indicate. You have another term for it. the facilitator, the leader, as opposed to fixing people's problems. You know, it's just a different function. It's more of a Brahminical function. Now, that doesn't mean that Brahmanas can't do something when somebody's has a problem. But the ownership of the problem and fixing the problem is the hero's job, or the role in a dreaded drama. So try not to do that. It's just some self-adjustment and take a different posture or position. And it has everything to do with, relationships, within your family, and then outside your family and in the community, and just people that you look up to or look sideways at, or look, you want to extend some care to others that are not as advanced, not as experienced in Krishna consciousness. So it's just a different role to play. And it's cute, and it's part of a little presentation on helping people to function a little differently than within that dreaded drama triangle. It's a leadership group that trying to train people how to be leaders instead of heroes. Fix people problems. Krishna will send it to you. You can share it with whoever you like. It's nice. Any other questions? I should have asked for questions, but I just moved on. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki?
Yeah.
Jai.